Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. My name is Joshua Ansley, and we have been taking our journey through the Yoga Sutras, but we're going to take a little break from the Yoga Sutras this week again. Today we're going to talk about love. Love. What is love? And not talking about romantic love per se, right? Between you and another person. That's just like a preferential romantic thing. That's not love. That's a relationship, perhaps. We're going to talk about unconditional love and what that means. And I'm going to get a little real here because a lot of the teachings I feel like have us in a space. Don't forget, you know, the rishis and the sages and Patanjali and all the people who came up with this stuff probably didn't have to deal with extreme narcissism or growing up with narcissistic abuse or extreme sexual abuse or emotional abuse or something like this. So I think that's highly overlooked in these teachings. They're not incorrect, they're not wrong, but they're starting from a certain standard where some people, when they get those teachings, then can really misuse them and misunderstand them because of the way they see the world. And while they're trying to help, they could actually be really fucked up. It's just the reality. It's my experience, strength, and hope. So it's not to discredit these amazing rishis or sages, which are just fucking men. They're just people. They're just people. I don't give a fuck about your avatars. It's great, yes, and there can be definitely superior people in understanding and all different levels and in love and all this kind of different things, right? You know, these teachers obviously have a certain understanding. I mean, for Christ to say, you know, forgive them for they know not what they do while he is nailed to a fucking piece of wood is pretty goddamn impressive. I also think it's a misunderstanding of the teachings. I think Christ was off, quite frankly. He should have fucking loved and forgiven them and left. But that's just my opinion, right? Then we wouldn't have all this crazy killing and pedophilia in Christ's name. I'm a little sassy today, kids. I'm a little sassy today. You know, just because you usually have this beautiful teaching by this man who, you know, when he talked about turn the other cheek, first of all, you have to know to whom he was teaching. There's so many contexts and understandings to understand these teachings. Who was teaching, who he was teaching to, the period, the zeitgeist, what is going on. I mean, he was teaching to people that were subjugated by another people, right? Like literally, you know, the Romans were superior, and if it was talking about turn the other cheek is to avoid fucking getting yourself killed and crushed. He was being smart. And really it's for us to turn the emotional cheek, right? But that doesn't mean that, this is just my opinion now. I used to be much more of a pacifist, and now I have self-respect. Now I understand a little bit deeper, you know. And then there's even beyond that where you can just sit with it and know that you're okay on higher levels, right? But let's just get into what I'm saying here, because the relationship is the most important relationship in your life is your relationship to yourself, right? Now you could argue relationship to God or some sort of higher power. Sure, absolutely. You could argue that they're the same thing, right? If you have an Eastern perspective of things and, you know, a specifically Jnani or Vedantic perspective of things, you know. But even if you look at it through the chakras, that piece of information, that relationship, whether it's God or self, is the beginning and the end, the first and the last. The fact that the knowledge that you are divine at your core is the beginning and the end. It is the root chakra and then opening up and coming back together at the top for the crown chakra, God and self, right? With all the stuff in between, birthing through it into this world. So, that relationship to self, if you don't know how to love yourself, I was listening to somebody talk about toxic self-love, and that's to the space of where it just becomes like, if you're a narcissist, and it's like self-love and self-care, and you're not giving anything back. The point is to be able to learn to love yourself and heal yourself in levels where you can give back into this world. But it's about taking personal responsibility, and that's why I want to talk specifically a little bit about narcissistic abuse, because it's a little known thing. It can be very covert, and it can be very fucked up, and it can twist you around. And if you hear some of these teachings about giving and love and just give, if you are a codependent and you are in a narcissistic abusive relationship, one where it's not even just overt, one where they have you in a covert sort of way questioning your own sanity and under the guise of love and support, right? When it's not really that, because they are in so much pain they can't even look at their own shit, right? When there's subterfuge and lies and chaos and instilling fear and retaliation and covering it all up and justifying it and making you think that you're crazy. So if you're ever in a situation with somebody where, if you are a good person, I don't know if you are, this thing is, if you do all this other fucking work, is take a look at yourself. Even the understanding of like, what is your part? To know what your part is and to take personal responsibility. That does not mean, when we talk about stepping out of the victim role, doesn't mean that you haven't been victimized. It means that to get out of that victim role is from moving forward from here, that you are no longer going to be a victim, and that takes your work. And that is about not blaming the perpetrator, right? So if we're talking specifically too about narcissistic abuse, these people are unaware that they're even that fucked up. They have, God forgive them, for they know not what they do. That does not mean, forgiveness does not mean allowing yourself to be abused and continuing in that relationship. Relationships are conditional. Love is unconditional. That's why it's love and relationships. It's two separate things, right? Relationships, this is just my opinion, but I'm just giving it to you raw, are absolutely conditional. You do not get to treat me however the fuck you want, and I'm supposed to just sit there and love you. I don't give a fuck if you're my mother. I don't give a fuck if you're my partner. I don't give a fuck if you're my child. It doesn't work that way. And if you allow it to work that way, then you're responsible for allowing yourself to be treated that way. Right? Now the problem is, the narcissist is going to turn it around and be like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? So don't fall into that trap either. You understand that you are allowing it to happen to yourself. So if you want that to change, there may need to be boundaries. In order to have self-love, you need to set healthy boundaries. Now, listen, if you're going to set boundaries, people are not going to like boundaries when you start to set them, but it's important, especially if you've never set them before. If you've always been kind of wishy-washy and just let them do whatever they want, then you've trained them to treat you a certain way. So now you have to retrain them to treat you a certain way. Some people cannot be retrained. They may be too old, they may be too set in their ways, they may be too narcissistic and stuck, they may be too sick and too traumatized to ever look at themselves. They can't handle actually being honest with themselves, constitutionally incapable of being honest, because they are so traumatized. I mean, there could be several reasons, but because they are so traumatized or so stuck in their ways from not being able to see it and not being open, that they cannot do anything except blame you. Because if they take responsibility, it would be absolutely too harrowing for the things that they've done if they actually look at what they've done as a result of acting out of their own pain instead of actually acting out of love. Instead of responding out of love, they are reacting out of their own pain. I personally believe that narcissistic personality disorder comes from severe trauma, and the only way they understand how to live is to take advantage of other people. And they're not even aware of it. So it's not that it's like if you try to convince them or show them, your sanity is on the line. Remember this. Your sanity is on the line. So if you start to see your sanity being questioned or wavering, that's the first indication. Because if you know, like, wait, something's wrong here, and you're following your gut, this is where they teach you to not listen to your gut. They teach you to not trust yourself, so that you can give all your power over to them. So know that. And if you tell a narcissist no, that's one great indication, right? Setting boundaries is hard with anybody, so it doesn't just mean they're a narcissist. But I'm telling you, if you have severe narcissistic abuse, I grew up in severe narcissistic abuse. It's atrocious. And it's covert, so it doesn't come right out and tell you. It's just this mixed message. It's lies, it's severe pain, it's trauma, it's dependency, it's enmeshment, it's all kinds of really painful, disgusting stuff that when you start to wake up to it, it's even horrible to look at and see. But if you want to live a good life, you have to learn to set boundaries and figure out what those boundaries need to be, right? It might need to be a hard boundary. So there's still forgiveness in your life for this person so that you don't hold on to resentment. But you need to possibly just get away and get to a safe space, because now your mind is all fucked up. Once they've pull that gaslighting and all that kind of shit, your mind is all fucked up, especially if they're trying to tell you that they love you and that's why they're doing it. And they believe that. See, here's the thing. They seriously believe that. So this hatred for them is like, it's understandable. Allow yourself to feel that stuff. It's okay that you feel that way about it. Trust me, it is the most harrowing, painful thing to experience. It is awful. And if you grow up in it, you don't have any fucking clue how to operate in this world and what reality is. And that's terrifying. And you don't know how to operate with people, and they can take advantage of you. So then your relationships, into other relationships you go, and you wind up in the same cycle of shit. And that's why a codependent is often finds themselves in a relationship with a narcissist, right? Any kind of relationship. I'm not even talking romantic, but just you'll find yourself finding narcissistic bosses, and you'll fall right into it because it's what you know and it's what you understand. And they will have you convinced that they are taking care of you, that they're doing so much for you. But see, this is where giving and receiving love becomes important, because if you're giving, I always say, like, be aware of why you're giving and how you're giving, because if you're codependent and you're giving so that you get something back, right, you may not even realize that. And understandable, there is a level of exchange that needs to happen here, and this is when it comes down to self-love. If you really have self-love, you can give without expectation of return, but you're not going to get into a romantic relationship with somebody that doesn't know how to give back, or somebody that doesn't know how to take care of themselves, or soothe themselves on deeper levels, or feel their pain, or somebody that only reacts out of their pain, right? It's not going to happen if you actually heal yourself. If you don't heal yourself, you will fall right into those situations, and the way that you understand giving and receiving love will be in a very manipulative space, and you will become needy and attached and enmeshed and all that kind of stuff. When you heal yourself and start to learn to love yourself from within and set boundaries, right, and give your space, and the love starts, it presses that boundary out to give you space, and then you have that space and it allows more love, and you can have more healthy boundaries, right? And it's not walls, right? So some, it might need to be that harsh, it might need to be that severe. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of amazing, gifted teachers out there that will say things and don't understand if they've never experienced certain things. That's why in the world of addiction and stuff like that, if people have never done the 12 steps, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Even in the spirituality and in spirituality and yoga and all these worlds of, like, even emotional understanding and all that stuff, 12 steps is one of the most profound systems of self-awareness ever. And it's confusing, and people don't know how to do it. People think they're doing it, or people do a few steps or whatever. That's a whole nother topic. But so understand that some of these teachings, they're like, just, give, be of service. Oh my God, that one's abused all the time by narcissists, by narcissist business owners, right? Who talk about karma and service. And that's how, we have on the vlog about starting, a cult, right? Is you take these principles and you abuse them. You not you, but somebody as an intelligent, extremely intellectual person can understand how to use them and abuse them. And some of those people don't even understand that they're doing it. They think it's actually right. They really do think that they're right, just like the priests and the pundits think that they're right in doing what they do, right? And they're closed-minded, and the people that think that God hates fags actually think that that's right. They really believe that because they're so fucking blind to the truth, right? And you say, well, that's my truth. Yeah, like, wake the hell up. It's humanity. It's love. So I can still love that perpetrator. I can still love that narcissistic abuser, right? But I need to love myself first. I need to take care of myself, get myself into a safe space. And the detachment from that is so incredibly difficult, and it takes years and years and years of healing, especially depending on how long it was. If you grew up with it your entire life, it'll take the rest of your life to be healing. But if you had a narcissistic relationship, odds are you probably grew up with it somewhere in your past too, that had some sort of reflection, or like, but it might not have, I don't know, right? So, but the healing that comes, and the time that it takes to heal from that sort of abuse is like, you can't trust anybody, you can't trust anything. I mean, you can, hopefully you're working towards that, but the feeling is of absolute terror and dread because you don't know what reality is. Your complete understanding of reality is questioned because you put your faith and trust in this person who tells you that red is actually blue, to the point of you're actually so confused because your gut knows that it's red and they're telling you that it's blue. And it's fucked up. So you have to start to take care of yourself. You have to get out, get yourself safe. If anybody is experiencing this or has experienced this and needs more help, reach out to me. I can definitely help, because that is a space that nobody understands unless they've really gone through it. People be like, oh, just get over it, or this and that and that. They don't understand. When it comes down to real abuse and trauma, people don't understand. This world is so fucking clueless. They have no idea what they're talking about. I love you all, but you're all so fucked. Me too, you know, working through it. Anyway, so I don't know what else. I guess that's pretty much it. I'm off to Yosemite this weekend for a wedding and stuff, and if they knew how much pain they were inflicting, maybe if they knew how much pain they were inflicting, they can't help it. They can't help themselves. And they'll blame you. They'll blame you the whole way through. That's why this whole teachings of, like, you know, not giving a shit what other people think, it's not so you can just go out there and be you. Yeah, sure, that's great. Like, on deeper levels, that's what, like, the Bhagavad Gita talking about, beyond honor and beyond dishonor. So everybody can badmouth you. The world can tell you that, you know, everybody's talking bad and blah, blah, blah. If you know that you're being true to yourself and you know that other person is fucked up and twisted, you have to hold on to that, you know. And it's twisted because sometimes they're so good at it, they hide it and nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. Right? Only a few people see it, and few people who are trained in understanding how to see the manipulation. So it's a gift, because now we know how to see it and we won't let it happen. And the way that really happens is by loving yourself. So all this talk about the other person is just that, right? There's awareness is important. But the answer is to heal ourselves, to take personal power back. You know, it's not just about to surrender. We talk about surrender all the time. Yes, it's to surrender. We talk about the ego. This one's going to be long, but talk about ego. And that's another, thing. It's like, so everything in this physical world, or every, part of our personalities is just part of the ego, and then makes it bad. It's not bad. It's ridiculous. It's just understanding that all that needs to be surrendered to something higher. And there are negative ego aspects and positive ego aspects. There's beautiful parts of your personality that need to flourish and go out and serve the world in some beautiful way, from that wholeness and completeness, from taking care and loving yourself. But all of that, no matter what, needs to be surrendered to something higher. But you can't even surrender to that something higher if you don't know what that is, if you're not in love with yourself. So fall in love with yourself. Give yourself that love, because you need it and you deserve it intrinsically. It's not your fault. It doesn't matter what has happened to you, what's been done to you, or what you have even done, because you've reacted out of your own pain because of the fucking trauma that you were subjected to and didn't know it. So stop the cycle now. Learn to live in love for yourself. I love you. In Lakesh Lakin, I am you. You are me. Namaste. What? Too much?